Hi, and welcome to Animalia the Podcast. I'm Natasha, and thank you so much for tuning in. This week, I present an excerpt from an interview on another show I co-host called Eye on Dependency. Following last week's episode, I managed to convince my husband, with whom I've co-hosted the show for almost 20 years, to dedicate one Sunday to the topic of animal cruelty. Thankfully, he didn't need much convincing, so on the 8th of November, we discussed issues of animal welfare and cruelty with Dr. Gabrielle Beckford from Jamaica, as well as Elspeth Duncan of Venus Doggess of Love. The entire show is available on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page, as it was broadcast live on I-95.5 FM as well as on Facebook Live. You'll be able to see the video I put together from the Venus Black Dog campaign and read comments from the audience. So please welcome back to Animalia, Elspeth Duncan.
This is our Dependency. We depend on your children to listen to you so that they won't turn to drugs and try drugs when they're not around you. We depend on our borders to be manned so that drugs would not come in. We depend on the rehab facilities to take care of our people and do a good job. And so too, the voiceless animals, they depend on us to take care of them. And we need to come and stand up for them.
Agreed. Good evening, Elspeth.
Good evening, Garth and Natasha and Trinidad and Tobago.
Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, you said a lot in that clip, and I just wanted to immediately jump into the last thing, the point that you made, the fact that since these three men were arrested and charged, you and I know that there have been multiple acts of cruelty against animals, yet no one has been arrested and charged. Why do you think that is, or what comment would you like to make about that?
Well, first of all, there are multiple reasons why this may be so. First of all, I don't think this is a reason that many people may consider, but in terms of the law, animals are considered as property, as someone's property. So that's like a chair or a table. They're not yet recognized in the wider legal circle as sentient beings. And I think in order for that to change, we need to have an alteration of the local legislation to recognize all animals as sentient beings and not property. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is that I know that our Commissioner of Police had mentioned that he would set up some police units to deal with animal cruelty. To date, we have not seen that, and it would help us greatly. We need this desperately to establish a unit in the police force that acts on both islands and deals specifically with animal cruelty. Because as we all know, Trinidad has a lot of crimes that involve humans, and animals are put at the bottom of the list. So when the police force is high in demand for dealing with these human-related crimes, the animal ones get pushed to the side. Now, this police unit should be a trained unit, trained to deal with animals and trained to deal with the people who own the animals if the animals involved in the case are owned. Sometimes they're not owned, but you need to have certain interpersonal skills in order to deal with people and animals. And also that the police officers on this force should, of course, be animal lovers, conscious of the fact and respectful of the fact that animals are sentient beings. They have feelings and they go through fear and pain just like human beings do, and that deserves protection.
Now, Elspeth, you are in Tobago. Your organization is in Tobago. What's the situation across there, and how do the citizens there treat with their animals, and of course the issue of strays?
Well, there are a lot of strays stray and homeless would be two different things. Stray would be animals that are owned and they stray on the streets. And there's a lot of that because in Tobago there aren't that many fenced yards as there are in Trinidad. So a lot of animals roam the streets, and a lot of them are not spayed or neutered. So when a female is in heat, for example, she's roaming around. The males are roaming around looking for the females, so you get that. If they're not roaming, they're chained. So you find a lot of chained animals, or they're put in kennels, and they're often, sometimes they're forgotten there. When I say that, they don't get the exercise and the care that an animal needs on a daily basis. You know, everybody is busy in some way, and if you have an animal that's chained, you might forget about it.
Yeah.
It might be seen more, not so much as a pet, but as an alarm bell to alert when somebody's coming, more like a protector. The animals are seen largely as workers, you know, protector, catcher of rats, etc. I'm not saying everybody is like that, but that I'm just giving some an overview. Some people, now taking care of an animal is a responsibility. It can be very costly. Vet fees are costly. You know, so you have to maintain your animal. It's like having a child.
Yes.
Correct.
That animal is your child. And if you don't see it like that, then when you see it with mange, when you see it with a cut, when you see that somebody has chopped it, or it has a broken leg because people speeding and knocking down dogs or cats, even chickens, I saw a dead chicken on the road today. You know, they don't stop for animals, and that you would stop for a person, they stop for goats or cows, because those are seen as having value as livestock. The dog and the cat would not be seen as having that same value. So, in a way, is it okay to knock it down? And the answer is no.
Well, I have a perfect example of that to share with you in a while. On our way here, we got a message from a friend what they experienced just last evening. But before...
Can I just add one thing to that, Garth?
Sure.
As a result of people not being able to take care of animals, or not wanting to spay and neuter, or not being able to afford to do that, and then the animal has puppies, they get tired of it, they want to get rid of it, and a lot of animals are dumped on beaches and in the rainforest, which is very unfortunate for the animals because they end up not having food, not having shelter. I mean, we've rescued several animals from the rainforest and from beaches. And, you know, as an island that prides itself on tourism, tourists come to this island and they adore the animals. Many of them have adopted and taken their animals back home to wherever they live. And for them to go to the rainforest, to be on a beautiful rainforest tour, and then see a skeletal dog wandering towards them, I don't think it's something that Tobago really would do well to continue allowing, you know. So there are lots of things that can be put in place to alleviate this problem, in fact, to stop this problem.
Right. Now, let me ask this, right? I know there are two types of people in Trinidad and Tobago. There are pet owners and there are animal owners.
Yeah.
Or people who have animals. Pet owners are the ones who will do the grooming, the vet, buy the proper food, and then the ones who the dog will eat what we eat. So after we finish with the bones and everything, the leftovers, we put in a bowl outside for the dog to eat. Two different types of people, right? And the way they view animals. Now, are citizens educated? Because Natasha tried to get in touch with the TSPCA here to get them involved, and try as she may, they've refused to respond and take part in the discussion. I was asking about, should there be education for the normal citizen to understand how important spaying an animal is? And I don't think I've ever heard any national discussion on that or national release from anybody anywhere to tell citizens, look, you need to spay your dog. Okay, if I have to spay my dog, where do I carry it? How do I go about it? How much will it cost? All of these things. You think the natural citizen is aware of that?
No, the average citizen, many people don't even know what spaying and neutering is.
There you go.
Both Trinidad and Tobago, 1. 2, a lot don't know where to go. Now, there are groups that offer low-cost spays and neuters, such as Animal 360 Foundation, Animal Welfare Network, and they also educate widely on it. But maybe it's not reaching the general public, because I'm glad that you all are doing this program, because it's essential that we bring discussions on animals and animal welfare and animal cruelty to the national landscape. I feel that all media stations, TV and radio, should be, well, I don't like to use the word should, but I invite them or suggest to them that it would be a great idea to invite these animal groups to talk, air their ads for free. Ads are expensive,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of bold to ask them to do it for free, but this is a community service. This is a national service for the betterment, not only of the animals, but of the people. When you educate the people, you end up with a much more conscious and compassionate nation, which is what Trinidad and Tobago would really blossom. Trinidad and Tobago would blossom. I know I'm straying from your questions. You might have to remind me, but let me get back to it. So, Animal Welfare Network actually has a primary school education program, and it's about animal welfare. And this program, or anything that develops from it, like maybe it can evolve into something a lot more full-bodied, would be fantastic as part of the curriculum of primary school. I would say it's essential. We grew up with animals, and when I say we, me and a lot of my friends, I mean everybody that I practically went to school with, we had our pets, we grew up with them, we were responsible for them, we learned to love them, we learned to care for them, and I do believe this carved the characters that we developed throughout our lives.
So if a citizen wants to spay a dog, and could you explain what spaying is, why is it important, and where can they go to do it if they're interested in doing it?
Okay. Spay is the term that's used for females, and neuter is generally used for male animals. So when you spay, you are removing the reproductive organs, so the female can no longer reproduce. She no longer goes into heat, or she no longer calls, as locals may say. And therefore, you don't have any more puppies or kittens around. So it is with the male. He no longer,
has testes,
looking for females and mating. And as a result, they tend to stay home more. A lot of males also get into trouble when they're following females in heat. They get into packs, and they may end up attacking livestock, which could end in them getting poisoned or chopped. And so spaying and neutering is also a very important move in reducing incidents or cases of animal cruelty. But in order to stay, you can contact Animals 360 Foundation. You can get them on Facebook. I don't know their number offhand. Find them on Facebook, Animals 360 Foundation. You can also contact the TSPCA in either Trinidad or Tobago, Animal Welfare Network, and practically any vet. But those three organizations that I called out will be more likely to indicate lower cost options. Venus Doggess of Love, my NGO, also, we have done some low-cost spay neuters of felines, so feral cats in Tobago, and also cats that are owned by those who are from low-income homes and may not be able to afford, and they tend to have a lot of cats running around in their gardens.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking, dealing this evening with the welfare of animals, and of course animal cruelty. And you can join us on 995.5. Thank you for joining us on 995.5 FM, and you can join us on the Dependency Facebook page. And before I hand you over to Natasha, could you just give us an idea what is cost to spay and neuter?
That varies. It can range, if it's low cost, it can range from anywhere to $200 up. But I think on average, it might be $5, and it depends on the size of the animal as well. Some of it goes pretty high, but I don't really want to say a cost and
right. It could
give people an inadequate picture, because different places would have different costs.
All right, and if you want, you can send us a message or make a comment or suggestion on our Dependency Facebook page.
Yes, and I'll do that right now. There we have a comment from Roger who says there are community outreach programs reaching out to communities to spay and neuter and educate on animal welfare best practice. The problem is that it's very costly and the private sector cannot do it alone.